We have late-breaking news. The U.S. carrying out another strike against Houthi rebels in Yemen, this time against a radar site, according to two U.S. defense officials. The strike conducted by a U.S. Navy ship, and now the U.S. waits to see if the Houthis respond. Tonight, after the Pentagon says a punishing series of U.S. and British strikes destroyed more than 60 Houthi military targets in Yemen, the first sign of retaliation. The Iranian-backed militia saying they won't stop attacking ships, firing an anti-ship ballistic missile into the Red Sea, but hitting nothing. President Biden was pressed, what would he do if Houthi attacks don't stop?
We will make sure that we respond to the Houthis as they continue this outrageous behavior, along with our allies.
President Biden has been under pressure to act following months of Houthi attacks on commercial ships in the Red Sea, through which the U.S. says 15% of global sea trade travels, including oil supplies. And some companies had begun avoiding the Red Sea, a costly disruption. Last night's operation included U.S. and British warplanes dropping bombs and U.S. Navy ships, including a submarine, firing Tomahawk missiles, more than 150 precision-guided bombs and missiles in all. The White House says they demolished Houthi ballistic missile launchers, ammunition warehouses, air defense radars, and more.
The targets we chose were all valid, legitimate targets that went right at the Houthis' ability to store, to launch, and to guide.
President Biden writing, the strikes send a clear message that the United States and our partners will not tolerate attacks on our personnel or that imperil freedom of navigation. But tonight, Iran, who supplies the Houthis with money, weapons, and intelligence, condemned the strikes, saying they are fueling instability in the region.
Do you have confidence in Secretary Austin?
I do.
Meanwhile, President Biden criticizing Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin for keeping his hospitalization secret. Austin did not tell the president or the public for days that he was off the job and in intensive care for prostate cancer treatment.
Was it a lapse in judgment for him not to tell you earlier?
Yes.
Courtney Kube, NBC News, the Pentagon.
No. Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.